Well, hey there, hi there, ho there, y'all. It's Brittany Byrne Turner, and in this video, I'm going to be teaching you how to make my very, very favorite vegan chicken pasta. If you're looking for the video about why Brittany Byrne Turner sucks and ruined the internet and fell off a bridge, well, that's the other guy's channel, not mine. So buckle up, grab, I don't know, a beer or something. We're gonna cook this vegan chicken.
So for whatever reason, Drew Monson is back. How many of you had any idea that Drew Monson had disappeared in the first place? Because I sure as heck didn't. That's probably 100% because of the fact that I am not someone who grew up watching YouTube. I was never like this huge fan of Shane Dawson. I didn't keep up with all of his content, all of his friends' content. I didn't know who any of these people were until I created my channel and began hearing their names in regards to the drama and the commentary. But Drew Monson is a name that I have rarely heard. Like, I had knew that he was a member of the quote-unquote Spooky Boys with Garrett Watts, but other than that, I have not heard his name mentioned. Well, Mama Drew has come back and come out the woodwork with a video. And she's angry, she's mad, or maybe she's a bit manic, I don't know. But we're going to talk about it, okay? So in response to Drew Monson's new video, my good Judy and personal good friend, iNabber, created a video in which, well, he reacted to Drew Monson's video. And by the way, JK, I've never spoken to iNabber. He doesn't seem like the type of guy I would get along with personally. Anyway, iNabber definitely created his video from the perspective of Shane Dawson bad, Shane Dawson a villain, right? The video went on and on at length about Drew Monson's mental health and about the self-deprecating humor that Drew Monson seems to rely on. And not only that, but the self-deprecating humor that Shane Dawson seemed to rely on in their friendship. Meaning that it definitely seemed to me that iNabber was putting the blame squarely on Shane Dawson's shoulders for the self-deprecation, or rather the comedy in which Drew was always the butt of the joke. Girl, I have now taken the time to watch three, count them, three Drew Monson videos. One being the video in which he's making his manic return to the internet. The other two being videos that he did with Shane Dawson, his good Judy, his good gal pal. And let me tell you something. I think it's so fraudulent and so false to come from the perspective that Shane Dawson is this big villain in this context, because there were insults flying both ways. And not only that, but there were insults that Drew Monson was definitely heaping upon himself. Drew Monson was definitely insulting Shane Dawson. Shane Dawson was insulting himself. He was insulting Drew Monson. That definitely seemed to be an aspect of their friendship. And I don't think in having that discussion, you could truthfully say that it was all Shane Dawson's fault. I just don't. I think that was an aspect of their friendship. Now, speaking of their friendship, there is an aspect that definitely bothers me, and that's the overly of that friendship. The fact that they were constantly flirting with each other, and it was definitely a two-way street. Who initiated that? I don't know, but it was definitely a two-way street. What's the big deal? Drew Monson, he's an adult. Well, the big deal is the fact that Shane Dawson is 7 years older than him and began speaking to him at the age of 13. Drew Monson was 13 years old when their friendship started on the internet, and yeah, at the time, Shane was 20 years old. I don't really know whether or not anything inappropriate was said by Shane Dawson to Drew Monson at that time, but knowing Shane, probably, right? Safe bet? I think so. But in terms of discussing Drew Monson's mental health, girl, let me just go ahead and say it's evident and obvious that this is a person who's been struggling with his mental health for quite some time, and that is not me making a disparaging remark. I, too, know what it's like to have lived my entire life with mental health issues, but I think it's pertinent for me to make the statement that it's evident and obvious that he's been dealing with this for a long time, and it's also pertinent for me to show you evidence of that fact. Evidence by way of this video that he posted on the Cinco de Vloggo channel when he was 14 years old. By the way, this is the only video that Drew Monson posted to that channel. Now, for those of you who do not know what the Cinco de Vloggo channel is, before I do proceed with this video, it is a channel that Edwin created with other YouTubers 9-10 years ago, and it's a channel that contains really offensive content. Recently, I did a video in which I was discussing the fact that Edwin Costa of Edwin's generation, who has now termed himself to be this hero for the abused and the downtrodden, has been making jokes about my personal experience with and rape. Well, guess what, sis? Guess what? He's not new to making jokes about rape. He's just not. In fact, before I play you that Drew Monson video, why don't you check out this video in which Edwin Costa is sexualizing a viral video, a very specific viral video. David after dentist.
Uh, is this real life?
Yes, this is real life.
Okay, now my asshole really hurts.
Good. No, don't put it in your mouth, okay?
That's what the man did to me. In my asshole.
You feel good?
The other guy, the dentist, he raped my asshole. He sedated me and raped my asshole.
What?
To be quite honest, this might be a shock to some of you to hear that this person who has paraded himself as a hero for the abused makes jokes based off of abuse. But to me, it's not that shocking. We have now seen him play that parody song by, what was his name? Rucka Ali? I don't know. He played a parody song by that dude in which, well, they were mocking. He played that in his live stream in 2021. Not only that, but he made a joke in one of the live streams that he was doing with Nicholas Diorio on Nicholas's channel. Now, this is one of the more blatant and explicit jokes that he's made in that regard, but I think it definitely indicates that this person not only had a habit of making this type of joke in the past, but of course he's still making that type of joke in the present. So he hasn't changed. He is still the same person. The only difference is he learned to sort of hide it better so that he could profit off of the real abuse of others. Meanwhile, it's a joke to him. And it's a joke to him because he's sitting there joking about what I lived through. He doesn't care. He can't empathize with it. All he wants is coins. Now, if you guys have been following my coverage of Edwin as a topic, you know that Cinco de Vloggo channel also contains several videos in which Edwin is being blatantly, overtly racist. He does blackface in a video, he's very transphobic in a video, and he's also very racist towards Asian people in a video by mimicking the stereotypical Asian accent that's very racist. So, I'm just gonna go out on a limb here and say it's no wonder that Drew Monson did one video on the Cinco de Vloggo channel. I mean, girl. Another person who went on to achieve a level of stardom based on their talents that I was very disappointed to see had made a video on the Cinco de Vloggo channel was Danny Noriega. And if that name doesn't ring a bell to you, Danny Noriega is Adore Delano from RuPaul's Drag Race. She did a video on the Cinco de Vloggo channel. Just one, true enough, just one. Obviously, Drew and Adore, they were able to see that the rest of these people were no talent hacks who were just offensive. They weren't funny, they weren't talented, they had nothing to offer. So they contributed their one video and they got the hell out of there. Anyway, here's that Drew video.
I don't really know if this is a story, but Lucky said I could do kind of like a dream kind of thing, and this, I guess this is a story, but I've never told anyone this before. There's a theme song. When I was younger or growing up, I guess I'm still growing up now, I'm only 14, but I used to go to Target a lot. I remember I used to love going to Targets like Wednesday after school on Wednesdays at like 7:30, and for some reason I looked loving it. I'm really tired. I love to look at pencils. I remember I didn't really have a cell phone.
Honestly, he reminds me more of an old lady than a teenager. But the thing is I used to love to go to like Walmart or the pharmacy or wherever it was we were going. And I would definitely spend the entire time in the stationery section looking at the pencils and the notebooks.
At this time, so I would be with my mom and my sister usually, and they would say, meet me by the cash register. The cash registers are like 6:45, or meet me by the cash registers at 7, and I would always, look at the CDs or DVDs or something, and then go, and then come back at this meeting time like 5 minutes before. And I remember one time they weren't coming, so I was just walking back and forth through the length of the cash registers, and I was going to meet them there, and they weren't coming, and for some reason, my mind, I was always kind of questioning my reality at that point, because I watched this movie called The Truman Show. I don't know.
Regardless of whether or not he had watched some type of movie that spawned this type of thought, it's no secret that people with anxiety tend to question their reality quite a bit, and they tend to have these outlandish thoughts resulting from some type of thought tangent, if you will, and I'm definitely no stranger to that.
I don't know how many of you guys have seen it. It's with Jim Carrey, but it's about a guy whose life is a TV show, and from that point on, I saw when I was like 8, and I just did not believe anything. And I remember I used to ask my sister, I would be like, is my life a TV show? And she'd be like, no, but if it was, I wouldn't tell you. And I was like, you little... I didn't say that at that point. I tell her that now. But anyway, I was walking back and forth through this aisle of cash registers, and I remember my mind went to this strange place where I started to believe that from now on, anything I did in my life, I was stuck at this Target. Like, imagine me, like, my brain is is seeing all these scenes, kind of like Avatar, where he's stuck. It's just all happening in his mind, but he's really in this place, except I'm moving. But basically, from now on to this point, I started to believe that, like, no matter what I would do, I remember how crazy things would get in my life, or it wasn't that bad, but I would always imagine that everything was happening in this little corner of Target.
Basically, it continues, but the gist is, even from an early age, he was definitely struggling with anxiety, which would lead to some outlandish thoughts. Compulsive worrying. I get you. From watching this video, even though this video was recorded when he was 14 years old, it is so obvious to me that this is someone with an overactive mind, someone whose mind analyzes everything constantly, who's overthinking it. I personally have had those thoughts where I'm like, what if my mind believes I'm here, this is the action that I'm currently engaged in, and my body is elsewhere in some horrible predicament, like I'm locked in a prison somewhere, or I'm in some type of machine somewhere, and this is all a simulation. Like, I've definitely been there with the overactive mind having these crazy-ass thoughts. So while this was obviously created as some type of sketch or comedy video, I think it had some semblance of truth to it. It had some roots in reality in regards to the fact that this is a person with anxiety, this is a person who overthinks things, and maybe this is a real worry of his. That being said, it's obvious that Drew Monson was able to take his anxiety, his depression, his self-deprecating thoughts, and make it into something that was desirable, something that was comedic, something that people could relate to, and he was able to make a successful career for himself off of that. That being said, when you do look at Drew Monson's channel, it almost looks like some kind of Amberlynn Reid future disaster. Like, all the different challenges, shopping hauls, like, I could definitely see Amberlynn's channel taking that route in the future. But like I said, girl, Drew Monson is back and she's angry. And while this new video was about loving yourself and the trials and tribulations of trying to love yourself when you just hate yourself so damn much, which, trust me, Drew, I've been there, and almost came across to me as being another large, successful YouTuber being angry that commentary and T-channels exist. Multiple times in that video, he complained about the fact that the video about him would get more views than the video from him himself. So, girl, get over it. Like, I have noticed lately that so many of these large, successful YouTubers are whining specifically about T-channels and commentary channels. Inevitably, in my mind, that can only lead to one thing, and that's going to be YouTube attempting to get rid of commentary and T-channels. And for the most part, when I hear these large, successful YouTubers whine about T-channels or commentary channels, what I hear is, I want to be able to do whatever it is I want to do with no repercussions. Because let's face it, without the T or commentary channels, a lot of this drama would fly by unnoticed for the large part. And, well, how would people know who to cancel? He also goes on this tangent about how just awful last year was for him, and he goes on and on and on about if only you knew, your jaw would be on the floor. And he does recognize the fact that in saying that, why is he whining to someone else? Potentially last year was just as bad for them. And I'm like, girl, well, you know, I'm just glad to hear you're doing good and you're getting back to normal and you feel like you have a new brain, but some of us still haven't crawled out of that dark spot yet. Hi, how you doing? Me, still firmly wedged in that dark spot, you know? And overall, I just largely seem to have missed the point of this video. Maybe it was nothing more than a, hey, how are you doing after being gone for a year or two? But still, what was the point? What was the point? I don't know if he was like trying to make a promise to himself that he was going to attempt to care for himself more, or if he was just announcing to the internet that he's back. I don't know. But somehow, whatever his intended point was, it seems to have been lost, and now people are all up in arms about self-deprecation and the humor that results from self-deprecation. And here's the thing. I think that try as you might, try as hard as you can to steer away from self-deprecation. When you are a person who doesn't love yourself, who doesn't like yourself, and you cut that off, you no longer have that outlet to laugh at yourself. And I think that's a really quick way to internalize a lot of negative energy. I really do. I think the self-deprecation, that humor, serves as a way for us to normalize these aspects of ourselves that we do not like. Anyway, those are just my thoughts on the topic. I mean, this was kind of disjointed. What was the point of this video? I don't know. I really just wanted to try to draw Drew Monson and get a video out for you guys. I don't know. This drawing doesn't look anything like Drew Monson to me. Girl, what was the point? What was the point in his video? I don't know. The only thing that I learned is, what, 3-4 years ago, Shane Dawson and Drew Monson were literally creating the type of content that I would love. And now that seems to be the catalyst for all of his mental health issues, which I don't think that's it. Honestly, looking at Drew Monson, it definitely seems to me that, like myself, he is someone who has had long-term mental health issues. And I think it's a bit flippant and disrespectful to put all of that blame on Shane Dawson. No, baby, no. Drew said it himself. He's been on some type of psychiatric medication since he was 12. So have I. So have I. So I know exactly what he's going through. But maybe, for whatever reason, that relationship or friendship with Shane did not serve him in a positive way anymore, and he needed to ditch it. That's completely fine. I'm simply saying that these outsiders on the outside looking in, doing commentary, they cannot put all of the blame for that style of humor on Shane Dawson's shoulders. Girl, there was no point to this. No point. I might as well have really just shown you how to make vegan chicken pasta. Like, girl, for real. Bye.